Hello and welcome to SUPERHOG Technology's Vacation and Short-Term Rental Titans podcast series. The show for anyone who wants to learn more about the vacation rental industry and get up close and personal with its leaders. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Alioto, the co-founder of Whimstay. Alex, welcome to the pod.
Leo, how are you, my brother? Well done on the pronunciation.
Thank you. I always try to research my guests. And as you know from listening to my pod previously, I always like to make you feel welcome. So I've got a lovely background of the Golden Gate Bridge, which you're probably, where are you in relation to the Golden Gate?
So my wife and I actually just moved from San Francisco, from the city proper, to a beautiful town right across that little bridge that you got behind you called Sausalito. Nice. So it's a fabulous little it kind of reminds you of sort of an old little fishing town, right on the water. We wake up, our view is of the water and of the city. One thing I've learned, if there's anything better than living in the city, it's looking at the city. So that's where we are now.
That sounds
5-minute drive though.
That sounds really beautiful. And how long have you lived in San Francisco for?
I'm a fifth generation, so for forever. And so yeah, born and raised in the city. Took some time to college, went to New York as every young man should, but then came back.
Amazing. Well, that explains your fascination with sport as well, because I know you've got some amazing sport teams in your city.
I do.
I'm less convinced about your choice of sports team, football team in England, but let's try and avoid all talk of Man City v Man United, because as a Man United fan, I seem to come off worse always.
Well, I'm hoping we can dig in a little bit later, but we'll see.
That's fine. If we do, I'll just edit that out. So
look, Leo, two types of people in the world, right? Those that agree that Pep Guardiola is the coolest man in the world, and then those that are liars. So that's it. So,
Yeah, fair play. Okay, guys, let me tell you a little bit about Alex's business. So Whimstay partner with professional property managers to provide travelers with great last-minute deals in clean and safe vacation rentals across the US. Their platform allows travelers to browse the last-minute availability of amazing properties and book them immediately at incredible rates. Alex, what a cool business. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, man, it is. We're excited about it. We're a channel that focuses entirely on last minute. So helping property managers liquidate their expiring inventory last minute, right? And then in doing so, sort of allows the travelers to, if you are spontaneous minded, to be able to find a vacation rental, an awesome vacation rental at a really good price. So it's kind of one of those situations where we think everyone wins,
Yeah, brilliant. And how's the last year been for you? How are you guys holding up? Crazy times, hey?
Crazy times. It's so funny. It's like, the question I would ask for you is, if you look at the last year, have you ever learned more in your life than you have in the last year, whether it's personal or business or whatever. And so I think that it's been, when COVID hit, when shutdown hit March of 2020 here in the States, I'm not sure what it was like in the UK, but when it hit, we were about 4 months live, so we were in our infancy. And so and our CEO, Brad, he did something I think that was just really great, which was he was very, very calm and very, very matter of fact, and even had a great smile on his face. And his reaction to it was, look, those that come out the other side of this, right? Those that come out the other side of a challenge looking better than they did before, that really is an indication of what you're going to look like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the line, So the last year for us has been a lot of learning, but an incredible growth, and I think if you want to get into the specifics of it, I think we had a kind of a three-pronged attack on that, which was, we went to our PMs, all of our PMs, and we made sure that all of them sort of understood, where they, it was a very scary time for property managers all over the world, right? Particularly with Airbnb's very kind of liberal refund policy. And so, don't get me started, but
I was going to say that we need a whole nother pod to discuss all of that stuff that went down, don't we, last year?
Yeah, let's forget about the entire supply side of our business and just kind of give them the old hose. But it was, it was important for them to understand that that we had their back, and that we weren't going to be given any refunds. And at the same time, our customer success team had to also call all of our travelers and say, hey, look, like this is just that we're a final sale site and this is just the way that it is. And so our customer success team got so much stronger by benefit of that. Our engineering team really got to just buckle down and create a system that is infallible. Not infallible, obviously, but there were no distractions, no fires to put out, no integrations or anything like that. That team was able to just really kind of put their head down and focus and create a great system. And then from my side, the supply side, for me, didn't feel any pressure to onboard a ton of properties. And so for me, I really got this kind of cool opportunity to kind of seek to understand, to call property managers, see what the heck was going on, find out, where their heads were at and everything. And it turned out to be really beneficial. And in the process of that, got to really explain our value prop to them. Not in a very, in a very sort of relaxed and question kind of manner. And as a result of that, we ended up onboarding a lot. And so, Brad was somewhat prophetic in that way, that by the time the pent up demand really hit, and in the States around June and July, particularly in that Southeast area of the United States and Florida and Georgia and everything. I mean, all of a sudden it was 0 to hero, man. It was boom. It was nothing. And then all of a sudden it was records were breaking. And so by the time that came around, our system was strong. Our customer success team was battle tested, and we had onboarded, 45 or 50 new property managers. So we felt pretty, we took a challenge and I think we created an opportunity out of it. And so,
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I think that's brilliant. I think that I like what you said. You said it a few times in there, where there is a problem, there is an opportunity, adversity brings strength to organization. And I guess, the major learning there is that it bounced back, the travel patterns returned because people wanted to get back into the action. In Europe, it took longer. And, as we sit here today, there's still parts of Europe going back into lockdown. And we know these problems persist, but there is always optimism, because we saw it last summer when people could travel, they did. And invariably, and most often, they were traveling to vacation rental properties. So, our whole industry stands in a very, very strong place at the moment, because we know that it's actually harder for hotels and destinations and resorts to open. And, we brought a whole new segment of customer in to our industry. Now, that definitely has its challenges. There's an education piece, there's risk, which is obviously where SUPERHOG comes in. There's risk to that, there's challenges to that. But I think generally, the signs are very positive. What sort of new trends did you notice around how long people were booking and the sort of places people were booking after the pandemic, after the lockdown? Sorry.
Well, first of all, new travelers. So I don't know what the number was. I want to say something like 54% of our travelers at that time had never booked a vacation rental before. Wow. And so that's a trend that we're seeing on Whimstay quite a bit, right? It's just new travelers altogether. And maybe this is an overarching trend in the industry itself. I think that COVID fast forwarded the vacation rental industry 5 years, right? Just like video conferencing like this, probably got fast forwarded 5 years, right? I think that the vacation rental industry, it was like, hyper speed. And so, and I say that I'm a little guarded when I say that, because I talked to so many property managers that had to close their doors by, again, not to circle back and talk about it too much, but by virtue of those relatively reckless refund policies that they had to shut their doors, right? So there was that, and so not everybody was thriving off of this. But I do think that the industry as a whole, right, it is now, I think very soon we're going to become the ubiquitous form of lodging and travel. That people are not going to think hotels first. They're going to think vacation rentals first. And I knew when we started this company that was probably going to happen 5 years down the line. Well, that's happening now, and so I think that new trends, some of them is that we're going to be getting so many people that were hotel people before, short-term booking and last minute booking obviously went through the roof, right? For a myriad reasons, right? People didn't know what was going on, drivable versus getting on an airplane, all sorts of different things like that. And then another trend that we're seeing a lot right now is we're getting a ton of midweek searches and reservations. So the sort of the Monday to Friday, or at least Monday to Monday. And so what that's telling us is that people are in the city and they're like, I can work remotely. So I might as well, if I'm in San Francisco, I might as well go to Santa Cruz and work remotely there, or I might as well go to Tahoe and work remotely there. So those, that's some of the stuff we're seeing. It's exciting.
I think it is. I think work from anywhere is really exciting because it's everyone's trying to very quickly define what it is, but it's going to take a lot longer for people to get comfortable with those patterns. I still think there's a bit of residual sort of fear that if they go too far, their employer is going to shout, "Hey, come back to the office 5 days a week." It won't happen. It's that ship has sailed. So yeah, I think that segment is only going to evolve. And I know there's some people doing some quite interesting things around creating sort of digital passports for people, so they can go and be a digital nomad wherever they want to and just plug in. And I think the companies of the future are going to know that that's the way to get their talent to come and join them, is say, look, hey, go and work from wherever you are, as long as you've got an internet connection, let's go for it. Incredibly exciting stuff. Obviously, the last minute piece is, I feel for our generation is a very popular choice, is not to sort of overly plan. And I guess we're more able to take our holidays when we want to. But then obviously it gets a bit more challenging for people when they start to have kids and things like that. And I think that was the difference I saw in COVID, is even people with kids and people traditionally, like, my mum sort of had booked her holidays for the next 20 years, when we were kids. She was like, oh, we're going to go to this place in Devon, and this is where we're going to go, right? And it was time and time again. And don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing. Mum, if you're listening, I love those holidays.
And she's listening. She's definitely listening.
She is. But there was that generational shift of thinking, you need to get something booked in for August, and that's the only time you can travel. Do you think you've noticed that families and older customers are also now embracing last minute?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I also think this, and I think that there's always going to be, I think that travelers are always going to have their preference, right? And I don't necessarily think that's going to go away. I always think that there's going to be the traveler that's going to travel, that's going to book out 90 days in advance, right? And that's just their personality, and they need to know what's going on, and they need to be able to, have flexibility with it. They can cancel if they want to, right? And then there's always going to be the traveler that's going to rather book spontaneously and maybe high risk, high reward, right? Like, I'm going to book, I'm going to get an awesome price at it. But there's also, I can't really cancel it because it's last minute. So I think that as we sort of go through this, there's going to be a balance on that, right? And so I think it's, I think that that's an important thing to note. I do think that last minute is very, very popular right now. And I think it's going to continue to be very, very popular. I think the one thing that we as Whimstay focus on, and maybe this is just maybe it's sort of more of a supply side perspective than it is, more of a macro perspective. But from my perspective, what's so important to us is that we allow property managers the opportunity to liquidate expiring inventory, right? To raise occupancy, to raise revenue, and then in addition to that, to find new travelers, and then to diversify, right? Because those are the things that to me are so important about what we're doing, is that we're putting as many tools as we possibly can into property managers' toolboxes. And so yes, the short term is going to be big. It's going to introduce new travelers to it. But I don't, but I think that we need to understand sort of the motives of travelers, So
yeah, I like that. Some good things in there. I'm getting from you as well a tremendous sense of loyalty to the property managers that you represent. I feel like you're someone that really gets that these guys are the backbone of the industry, right?
They are. They're the product, right?
Yeah. So true, isn't it? It's like having 1,000 interior designers or 1,000 curators. Like, that uniqueness is just incredible. And I love how we were born out of that. The whole industry was born out of peer-to-peer. It's evolved certainly to add a good level of professionalization in certain sectors, although the peer-to-peer thing is still going strong as well. But it's that thing that I don't think anyone saw coming, was just how much variety and how creative people would be about sheds in gardens and things like that.
Totally.
Yeah, it's very cool. Look, tell us a bit more about yourself. You're obviously a successful guy. You're someone who's well known in the industry. What was the journey that brought you to Whimstay, and what were the challenges along the way?
God, you wouldn't think it by how blustery and I am, but it's always hard to talk about myself in this way. I'm an arrogant guy. There's no question about it. I just don't like talking about myself. But I came to this industry really. I didn't know. I will be very honest with you. I didn't know anything about it, and so I was approached by our co-founder Ben Jamshahi and another friend of ours, Jim Rossiter, who helped sort of lift this thing up. And they approached me, and Jim knew me because I had worked in tech sales at Yelp for a very long time. Yeah. And they approached me to say, hey, look, like this is what we're doing. We want to start this, and we want you to head the sales. And to me, the idea right off the bat, the idea was like, this is a brilliant idea. And Ben created it because he was a property manager himself. And he saw a problem. And so he created a solution, which is always a very good sort of starting point, right? There's a problem, let's create a solution. Sounds kind of silly, right? But those are the ideas that tend to work, right? Mm-hmm. And so I remember we didn't know what we were doing, and there's a lot of freedom in not knowing what you're doing, because there's nothing really holding you back. There's nothing that can kind of talk you out of doing insane things. And so the first insane thing that we did was we went to ResFest, which was Escapia, HomeAway V12's conference in Marco Island, Florida. This was in 2018, 19, I think. And we had nothing. We had no system. We had nothing. We were an idea, and we were nothing but that. And this was a huge conference, and there was a table. And on that table was about 7 or 8 other small companies that didn't know what the hell they were doing. And that's what we got. We didn't have a booth. We had a table with 7 other people. The guy right next to me was the guy from MyVR too. So was recently purchased by Guesty. So a lot of success from that table too. So, and so it was just a learning process. It was a process of like, we didn't know what a PMS was. You know what I mean? And so we kind of got the opportunity to really go and just sort of and just kind of explore and see what was going on. Immediately, we understood we need to be integrated in PMS. Immediately, we understood that. And so that was a really big learning point for us. I think a huge moment in our incarnation was the understanding that we needed to integrate. And so we did, and then you just more and more, you just start to fall in love with the industry. You start to fall in love with what this is and the idea of it, and this idea that it's like, it's so far superior to staying in a hotel. And you talked a little bit about this professionalization piece. It's like, that's so wonderful, because that's what's happening across the board. And now you have this sort of this double-headed dragon of like, now I can live in a beautiful villa where I can cook where I want to. I can go into a pool with just me and my partner and my kids. We can cook how we want to. We can blend into the city itself or the town itself or whatever. And also, we're going to be treated with the same amount of hospitality that we would at a hotel. I mean, how can't you love something like that? It's revolutionary in terms of what's going on in travel and lodging. So immediately I fell in love with it, and I fell in love with property managers because I think the world of them, and I fell in love with the people in the industry, people, all over the place that I just think are so smart and so innovative, people like you, Leo, and what you guys are doing over at SUPERHOG, which I think is so fabulous, so. And I think, and the last thing I'll say, and I know that I'm babbling a bit, we're on the on-ramp on this thing, man. Like we are in the infancy, and this thing is going to go somewhere very, very strong. And I look at people in this industry, and I think you guys are going to have a voice in the travel industry for the next 20, 30 years. And I think that's really cool. So did I avoid talking about myself enough? I think I did.
That was skillfully done.
Yeah. I come from politicians, so that's what I come from. So I can dance, baby. I can dance.
That really was. But also, the great thing was, it was very interesting to hear. I love your passion. I love your passion for the industry, and I completely agree with you. There's an amazingly innovative space to be in. What I love is everybody's willingness to share. I've found in the most part that, and I think you're right. I think it's because the key to the industry is integrations, and that creates this amazing environment. And again, it's where I've spent all my career, so I don't really have any frame of reference. But I completely share your passion for it, and I think there's some amazingly interesting businesses. And like you say, I think we're here to stay. I think we
No
definitely
question.
are the future of travel. And when people traditionally were going to cities on city breaks before tech-enabled home sharing was a thing, it was more the culture that you booked into a really nice hotel, and then you maybe ate at that hotel, and you maybe only stayed in the west end of the city where Theatreland was. And it was, looking back now, it was easy money for hotel chains. And now, like you say, you have all these different types of travelers that when they want to come and stay, they want to come and have the local experience. I now want to come and stay in your fishing village across the bay from San Francisco. So clear out a spare room for me, okay?
I will, and you don't have to. Yeah, and you don't need a short-term rental. You stay with me.
He's so good, isn't he? He's so
yeah.
nice.
My wife will approve. My wife will love Leo. There's no question.
I'm not editing that out so everyone can hear that, Alex.
Okay, good.
Look, what would your biggest piece of advice be to somebody who's looking to get their start in the industry? They've got that idea. They're the guys who are going to be at the next conference sat around a table. What would you say to them? You guys have had such success so quickly.
I think I would say this in general to all entrepreneurs, and this is going to sound very, very corny, right? It's just going to sound like one of those dumb motivation posters that you see, with the kitten hanging from the wall or something. I don't know. But I'll tell you what I know, what I have found to be true. And this is a kind of a secret sauce as far as I'm concerned. Vanessa's got her secret sauce thing at Reynolds United. This is a secret sauce as far as I'm concerned. And that is just don't stop. You know what I mean? So just keep going, because starting a business is really, really, really hard, and you are going to get beat up. That is inevitable, and I, my poor wife, I don't know how many times I've said, I'm done. I'm quitting. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. 10 times maybe. But what I'm starting to understand is that if you've started a business and you haven't wanted to quit 10 times, you're probably not doing it right, and you just have to keep going, because if the idea is good, if the idea helps, if the idea creates a solution, then that's it. Then the only thing that you have to do is just not stop. And so, and it's hard, if it wasn't hard, there'd be no Uber drivers. So, so it's sometimes it's not going to feel okay. The other piece of advice I would give, it's okay not to be okay. There's going to be a lot of times that it's just like, I can't do this anymore. And you just have to keep going. And then things start to, and at the moment, I think when you're like, this is it, I can't do this anymore, and you do keep going, that there's always a breakthrough on the other side of that. Always. I don't know why. That's just the way it is. So I don't know. That's what I would be. If you've got an idea and you believe in what you're doing, don't stop. Just be a train. Just keep chugging.
I think that's really, really amazing advice. And seemingly those themes come back when I speak to people about this. It's like, and I said this a few weeks ago, so I'm repeating myself, but success is a mindset. It's a mentality,
1,000%.
Yeah. It's more about getting back up from the hits you take, right? Rather than shying away from taking a hit in the first place. So
right.
Yeah,
the hits are going to come. That you have to know that the hits are going to come. That's just what this looks like, and and then it's proportionate, right? The amount of suckiness is proportionate to the amount of success. I do honestly believe that too, So the suckier it is, in my opinion, the greater the success will be,
And wasn't COVID one big great example of that, right?
There's no question about it. There's no question about it.
Alex, it's always so great to talk to you, and we end up talking about a variety of subjects. I think we've kept a lid on it today because we know we were doing the pod. Sometimes it's just Man City, Man United for several hours. So thank you. And again, if you mention Man City too much, I'm just going to edit the whole thing anyway. Apart from Man City,
will this be playing by the time we've won the UEFA final or not? By the time we beat Chelsea, is that no?
Oh dear! And I understand now why you do that.
That could not age well. That comment could very well not age very well. So,
well, that will depend whether I keep it on or not. I suppose. Yeah. Look. Tell me
if it doesn't age well. My guess is you're keeping it in. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. Alex, tell me when you're not working, what do you do, and what do you and your partner do to help forget about the trials and tribulations of being a founder and forget about the day?
I personally, I spend as much time with my wife as I possibly can. I know that's a kind of a cop-out answer, but it's really true. There's a phrase that's used in the United States. It's out punting your coverage, which is a football term, an American football term, which basically means that the person that your partner is far superior to you in every way. And so I do believe that's the case with me. So any moment that I can get to hang out with her, and God bless her, that she knows, she's not a sports fan. It's apparent that I am, and she's so patient about sitting there and watching, an entire baseball game or football game or Man City game with me. And so, eating and hanging out and doing yoga and chilling and meditating together and just walking around and holding hands, and me just saying like, holy cow, I can't believe I pulled this one off. That's my off time.
Brilliant. Alex, that's brilliant. You've painted a really vivid picture there of your life, and it sounds brilliant. I bet
it's not all that exciting, in case you didn't notice, but
no. We did the same. My partner, who's wildly superior to me in every way, she'd been trying to tell me to meditate for years, and the lockdown came, and I finally listened. It was liberating. It made me realize, there's something to all this.
It's a game changer.
You mentioned a lot of things there, but that I guess that is a really important one when you have a stressful job that's more than a job; it's a vocation. So do you find yourself using meditation for that purpose?
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it for years, but yes, and I think what it does is it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't calm. I don't want to say it calms the mind. What it does do is it eliminates resistance. So when things come up, there's no pushing back, right? It's allowing everything to be exactly as it is. And there's an incredible amount of freedom and power in that, because like I said, not everything is going to go the way you want it to go. And if you don't resist that, if you don't push back against that, if instead you say, this is what's happening, and I know it's what's happening because it's what's happening, there's a lot to sort of unfold out of that. So yeah, it's a game changer, no question about it.
Amazing. Well, look, I've kept you long enough, and I could talk to you for hours, but I think that's a really good point to leave it. So look, I guess that the take homes from the interview with you is keep going, never
keep
stop,
going. Never stop.
But when you do need to stop, sit and do meditation for 10 minutes.
Exactly.